Hello, I'm Stephen Mangan and I'm reading a story for you in aid of the National Brain Appeal, which helps out the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, or the Hospital for Neurosurgery and Neurology. Not sure which one it is. Like a lot of hospitals at the moment, they are under tremendous pressure. They're working very hard. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, porters, support staff. Everyone's trying to cope with these incredible and unusual situations that are being thrown up by the virus and all that it entails. But their work has to go on, and we're here to help them and try and support them. So I'm going to read Rumpelstiltskin by the Brothers Grimm. I'll just get my pages in order, otherwise it won't make any sense at all. Rumpelstiltskin. There was once a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter, and one day, having to go to speak with the king, he said, in order to make himself seem important, that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. The king was very fond of gold and thought to himself, well, this is an art that would make me very happy. So he said to the miller, if your daughter is so very clever, bring her to the castle in the morning and I will check if she really is as useful as you say. As soon as she arrived, the king led her into a chamber which was full of straw. And giving her a wheel and a reel, he said, now set yourself to work, and if you have not spun this straw into gold by an early hour tomorrow, you must die. With these words, he shut the room door and left the young girl alone. There she sat for a very long time, thinking how to save her life, for she didn't know how straw might be spun into gold, and her worry increased more and more, till at last she began to cry. All at once the door opened, and in stepped a little man, who said,
Good evening. Why are you crying?
Oh, she replied, well, I must spin this straw into gold, and I'm not sure I know how to do it. The little man asked,
What will you give me if I spin it for you?
My necklace, said the maiden. The little man took it, he placed himself in front of the wheel, whir, 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 3 times round, and the bobbin was full. Then he set up another, whir, 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 3 times round, and the second bobbin was full. And so he went on all night long until the straw was spun and the bobbins were full of gold. That's my front door. At sunrise, the king came, very much astonished to see the gold, the sight of which gladdened him, but did not make his heart less greedy. He caused the maiden to be led into another room, still larger, full of straw, and he told her to spin it into gold during the night if she wanted to live. The maiden was quite at a loss what to do, and she started crying. And then the little man appeared.
Why are you crying?
She told him, and he asked her what she would give him in return for his assistance. The ring off my finger, she replied. The little man, he took the ring, and he began to spin at once, and by morning all the straw was changed to glistening gold. The king was rejoiced above measure at the sight of this, but he wasn't satisfied, and he led the woman into another larger room full of straw, and he said, you must spin during the night. If you accomplish it, you shall be my bride. For, he thought to himself, a richer wife you cannot have in all the world. When the maiden was alone, the little man appeared again and asked for the 3rd time,
Why are you crying?
When she told him, he said,
What will you give me if I do this for you?
well, I've nothing left to give you, said the woman.
Well, then promise me your firstborn child if you become queen.
The miller's daughter thought, well, who can tell if that'll ever happen? And not knowing how else to get herself out of trouble, she promised the little man what he desired, and he immediately set about and finished the spinning. When morning came and the king found all he had wished for, he celebrated his wedding, and the miller's fair daughter became queen. The happy times she had at the king's court caused her to forget she'd made a very foolish promise. Even the king turned out to be not quite the mean person he had appeared to be at first, and they both fell in love with each other. About a year after the marriage, when she ceased to think about the little man, she brought a fine child into the world. And suddenly, soon after its birth, the little man appeared and demanded what she had promised. The frightened queen offered him all the riches of the kingdom if she would leave her child alone. But the little man said,
No, something human is dearer to me than all the wealth of the world.
The king began to weep and groan so much that the dwarf pitied her and said,
I will leave you 3 days to consider. If in that time you discover my name, you shall keep your child.
All night long the queen racked her brains for the names she could think of, and sent a messenger through the country to collect far and wide any new names. The following morning the little man came, and she began with Caspar, Melchior, Balthazar, and all the odd names she knew. But at each the little man said,
That is not my name.
The second day the queen inquired of her people for uncommon and curious names, and she called the little man Ribs of Beef, Sheepshank, Whalebone. But at each time he said,
That is not my name.
The third day the messenger came back and said, Well, I've not found a single name, but as soon as I came to a high mountain near the edge of the forest, where foxes and hares say good night to each other, I saw there a little house, and before the door a fire was burning, and around this fire a very curious little man was dancing on one leg and shouting, Today I stew and then I'll bake, tomorrow shall the queen's child take. Oh, how famous is that nobody knows that my name is Rumpelstiltskin. When the queen heard this, she was very glad, for now she knew the name. And soon after the little man came and asked her,
Now, my lady queen, what is my name?
She said, Conrad?
No.
Are you called Hal?
No.
What about Rumpelstiltskin?
A witch has told you. A witch has told you,
shrieked the little man, and he stamped his right foot so hard in the ground with rage that he could not pull it out again. Then he took hold of his left hand with both his hands. He took hold of his left leg with both his hands and pulled it away so hard that it came off. He hopped away, howling terribly. And from that day to this, the queen never heard from him again. There you go, it's a sweet little story. Thanks for listening. I really hope if you enjoyed this, you'll think about maybe donating some money. I think the details should be there, or they'll certainly be on the website of the National Brain Appeal. Thank you very much.